Hey, it's Mirella Manelli, and today I'm going to show you a really cool technique on how I achieved this cool bronze using all Kenra color. Now let's go ahead and get started. So what were you looking to get done today?
I think today I want to go a little bit lighter, or maybe more lighter. More dimension for sure, and less contrast, but more blend, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How are you liking the depth that you have in here? Is this still feeling like really dark in here?
Yeah, because it's been a while since I've really colored my hair, over 6 months, so it's definitely overgrown for sure and needs some fixing up.
Yeah. So I see you definitely have some highlights. So overall you're looking for something a little bit low maintenance, or?
Yeah, definitely low maintenance.
Okay. Yeah, I can see you have some blended highlights. Are you liking how light they are right now, or you want to go even blonder than what you currently have?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you have any inspo photos?
Yeah, I actually do.
Yeah, I see that she's got some definitely lighter pieces throughout. I see lots of dimensions still. And we have this dark into light. Are you liking how that's flowing?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, awesome. And then what about, so she has a subtle face frame. I don't want to call it a money piece, but it's definitely a subtle face frame. It's just a little bit of brightness. It's up a little higher around the face.
Yeah.
Still really blended. Is that something that you're looking for?
I'm not sure if I want it super high, just because my hair is naturally straight. So it just sticks out in the front, and then it kind of just doesn't look as good, I guess, with my straight hair versus when it's all curled and done, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so definitely highlights around the face frame, but just not very...
Not money piecey.
Yeah, got it. So make sure that's still blended.
Yeah.
And you wear your hair straight most of the time?
Yeah, I honestly don't use a lot of heat on my hair unless I do photo shoots.
What don't you like about your hair right now?
Well, I haven't gotten it done in a while, so I also haven't gotten it toned, so it looks a little brassy, on the ends.
Okay.
And it's not blended. And also just the roots are really dark. As you can see, my hair's kind of grown a lot the last 6 months.
Yeah, you have a lot of depth in here, so we can definitely go in with a ton of highlights to brighten you up and bring some of this blonde up a little higher, and then also overall make you blonder. And then it sounds like you like more of the cooler type of end result versus warm, because even though I don't really feel like your hair's brassy, but if you feel like this is brassy and it's already kind of on the warmer side, we can go cooler than that.
I think it's because I wash my hair the night before. It doesn't look as brassy, but it's when it gets to the second or third day of not washing it, it looks more orange, especially in the sun or the bright light.
So what I'm hearing right now is that you definitely want a lot more blonde. Bring it up a little higher, still really blended, lots of dimension, but not a lot of contrast. And bringing your face frame up, but not super high.
Yeah.
So that way it looks good still when it's worn straight.
Yeah.
And I think what would be best to give you the most blended effect is we can go in with some teasy lights, so we can make sure that it stays really rooted, and then add in a few little baby lights so we have those little pops of brightness throughout, but still maintaining a lot of your natural throughout, so that way it will be low maintenance. We can go in with a color melt toner, something that goes into dark into this lighter, really cool tone, and it will last you a really long time. And I think overall you probably need to get it touched up every 6 months, which is about the time you're coming in right now.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
That sounds amazing. How often would I have to come in to get it toned?
I would say every 6 to 8 weeks is good to come in, because that's about how long a Demi-Permanent toner lasts.
Got it, okay.
So by that time, it's just really nice to come in and we can do a singular toner. And what's nice about it is it's gonna add a lot of shine, hydration to your hair.
Okay.
I like to call it pantyhose for hair.
Yeah.
It just kind of polishes it all up and makes it look beautiful, and we can go in and correct any brassiness that comes up. So I know that's a concern for you.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge concern. So I definitely will probably have to get it toned every 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, yeah, so we could, at the end of our appointment today, we can definitely schedule that appointment.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But are you ready to get started?
Yeah, thank you.
To get started on our application, I'm going to pre-section my client. So I got her part where she naturally parts it, so somewhere around the center. I like to work with my client's parts just so that way I'm not fighting against where it naturally wants to lay. And then I went ahead and did a section from the apex down behind the ear. And then in the back, we went in with a diagonal so we can create this little triangular section and then simply dividing it in the back right down the center to create two separate sides. So for her entire look, what I'm gonna be going in with is a bunch of teasy lights throughout these back sections, and I'm gonna be working with diagonal sections. And I'm gonna start out kind of on the thinner side just to get started so we can take advantage of that face frame since she does have quite a bit of dark on the underside. And what I'm looking for here is probably around that 50% tease. So I'm gonna start teasing towards that mid zone here, and I just wanna work with really thin pieces. And these teasy lights will allow for that depth to be maintained at the top while still keeping the ends really light. For this project, I'm using blue powder lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 20 volume developer. And the reason why I chose this lightener is because I want something to get us pretty light. My goal is to get her to a level 9 so that way we can bring it back down since her end goal is to be a very cool shade of a tone. And in order to get me there, the best way to do that is to get past that level 8. So I really just don't want to have any warmth and just make it a lot easier for me when I go through and tone. So for this bottom section, I'm just gonna do 2 back-to-back teasy lights. And again, I just wanna make sure that I have this entire face frame, so right behind that ear all the way to that center. Now that I have my 2 back-to-back teasy lights here, I'm gonna go ahead and start incorporating a dropout, but I'm still maintaining that diagonal back section. And what I'm gonna be doing is highlighting towards the bottom now. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I really love weaving right here at the base so that way I have the most control. But what I'm gonna be doing is changing this up because I want something still really lived in and also really natural. So in order to achieve that, I'm going to weave down here so that way I can kind of picture exactly where those highlights will fall towards the ends. Now that I have my weave, this is where I'm gonna go in and start teasing. And again, I want a 50% removal of that hair. So I just want a nice little kiss of those highlights and ribbons throughout. When I do my application of my lightener, I like to apply it on that mid zone, make sure I have a generous amount, and then quickly stroke up that lightener. And just make sure to really saturate through. And the best way to do that is to open up the hair inside the foil with the brush. And this is why thin sections are so important. So I'm gonna continue on doing my diagonal back technique throughout this entire back sections, and then I'll get right to this top section. Now that I have both sides completely done, I'm gonna work on this top section here. So what I'm gonna do to marry this together is I'm gonna do another diagonal back on each side. So I'm gonna do the same thing, but again, it's just to kind of marry these bottom sections into this top section. So I'm taking that tiny slice, weaving towards the bottom here, doing my tees. Now the whole purpose of the diagonal back is that we're gonna create a lot of a ribbon effect throughout the underside. So that way, if she does happen to wear her hair curled, then you will definitely see those little pops of ribbons, but it also looks really great when it's worn straight as well. So now that we have these ribbons living underneath, and ribbons with the teasy light, so still keeping it nice and rooted, what we're gonna do on this top section is a horizontal placement. So that way we can have a nice blanket coverage, still utilizing the same technique, but this is where we're gonna be adding in not only teasy lights, but also some baby lights. I also think too, weaving towards the bottom like this, it allows us to create a lot more bolder type of ribbons. Something along the lines of a little bit more chunkier than we normally would. So very much different than doing your traditional baby light. Okay, so now that I have those in, I'm gonna go ahead and take a horizontal in the back. So this is another way of marrying these two sections together. So I'm just gonna let this pocket of depth live right there. And we're still gonna take a weave towards the bottom here and then tease this. So now I'm gonna start alternating our teases with some baby lights. And the way I'm gonna do that is by utilizing my weaving comb. Basically what we're gonna have is a baby lighted highlight living right on top of this teased foil. So the only dimension that we're gonna have living between these foils are these pieces that are removed from that highlight in that small slice that we added in. So essentially these highlights are gonna live a little higher than what our teasy lights are living. So I'm gonna continue on adding in my baby light with a weaved tease right underneath. Now that I'm all done with the back, I'm gonna move towards the front. And like I mentioned earlier, we're just utilizing her natural part somewhere in the center, so at some point I will marry these together. But what I've done now is isolate what I would call the money piece or the face frame, and I wanna make sure we maintain a very natural and blended end result. She doesn't want too much attention going towards the face and nothing super high, because she still wants to make sure that it looks good while it's worn straight. So what I've done here is isolate out from about maybe like 2 fingers back and then right behind her ear. And now we have an additional 4 sections towards the front. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some more highlights in. Okay, so to get started on the side, I'm just gonna take a diagonal section that goes parallel to her hairline. So everyone's hairline is gonna be a little different. So I always make sure that it's gonna give me that blanket coverage, especially if she decides to wear her hair up, that we're gonna have a nice cohesive highlight right here on the hairline. So I'm gonna highlight that entire section, and I'm still gonna keep this rooted. Now we are gonna be adding in a shadow root to her afterwards, but my concern isn't to take it all the way up to the root area because she does want something kind of lived in. So I just want to make sure that we create a nice soft line there, so it makes it a lot easier for us to blend with the shadow root formula that we're going to go in with, but it also grows out and fades really nicely. And because we're working around the face, I'm going to go ahead and tri-fold this. Normally I love doing a flat wrap, but this just makes it a lot more comfortable for your client when they're in your chair. So I'm gonna take another diagonal section, and I just wanna make sure that we're doing it back to back, but The dropout is going to be the weave itself. So we're still gonna have some nice background and dimension right there. Now for this next section, I'm noticing that her hairline right here in the front is a little slightly curved. So I'm just gonna go ahead and isolate this out for just a second. Definitely, you know, alter your sections as you're working on different clients because everybody's head shape and hairline is a little different. So I'm gonna take another diagonal here. Now for this section here, we did 2 back-to-backs, but I'm gonna start incorporating a little tiny subsection. I just want a little bit extra background between this foil and this brand new foil that we're gonna put in. Now I'm gonna add in her face frame right here on this top section. So I'm just marrying these 2 sections back together. And I'm gonna go ahead and take a really tiny slice and I'm gonna take it all the way back that it can in that same section. And I'll just leave this as my dropout. Again, we're just looking for dimension. We're not looking for anything super bold along the front. And I'm gonna highlight that entire piece. And I think the most important thing is just make sure that you're working parallel with the hairline. I can't stress that enough. How you highlight the hair is exactly how it will look in the front when they pull their hair back. And since we're not gonna go all the way to the root, I wanna get kind of close because we are gonna shadow it. And in order for me to do that, I'm going to brush this lightener up into that section. So this just gives us a softer line of demarcation. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight this entire section. Again, my dropout is going to be whatever is that dropout from the highlight itself. Doing it this way is gonna make it look really blended. Now that I have our face frame in, I'm gonna start working up horizontally in this section. This is gonna give me a really nice, again, blended and blanket coverage of this entire side section because you can see how it's falling. And in order for me to get that ultimate dimension and blend, we're gonna go in horizontally. And I usually kind of start right at the parietal ridge. So that's where the head starts to curve. That's a really great spot to start at. I'm totally fine with leaving a little small pocket of depth inside there. So I'm gonna go back to my teasy lights right in through the side here. So I'm gonna highlight down at the bottom and make sure that everything's nice and rooted in the interior. And then as I get a little closer to where her part's at, I will add in a few little highlights. But these ones underneath, I like keeping these rooted, and for a couple reasons. Number one, it's gonna give me extra background and depth and dimension, and it just creates a lot less work for you as well. Sometimes over highlighting and over foiling just makes extra work for no apparent reason. And we don't want to eliminate the depth. So I'm gonna do a small little dropout. Weave towards the bottom. Tease out 50% of that hair. Okay, so I'm right here at the top. I feel like this is gonna be a great place for me to start incorporating those highlights. I probably have wiggle room for about 4 more foils going on here. So you can see how wide of a section that I'm working in here. So we're just gonna take a small little slice, weave this one, And living right underneath it, we're gonna add in a teasy light. So very similar to what we were doing on the back side. So I'm gonna do this one more time on this top section here, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. So I've finished with her application. We're gonna process her for about 30 to 45 minutes. I'll definitely take a peek at the foils as she's processing, but overall my goal is to get her to that level 9, so that way we have a lot of control with the cool canvas that we're trying to achieve. So as soon as I'm done processing, I'm gonna shampoo her out and then bring her right back for her final color melt glaze. So it's been 45 minutes. I went ahead and shampooed and conditioned and even detangled my client's hair, and you can see how much more blonde we got. Like, holy cow, we got so much more brightness going on, and it still looks really rooted. As a matter of fact, this canvas looks really good even before we're gonna go in with the toner, but we are going to add in a little bit of a shadow root. So what I'm gonna go in with is Kenra's Demi-Permanent hair color, and I'm going to shadow her with 7NA with a little bit of 6 Ash. Our overall goal is to keep her nice and cool and still really natural at her base. I don't want to alter or darken her natural hair color. I just want to enhance it by cooling it down just a smidge, and also to cool down a little bit of those highlights that are a little bit higher up. And then we're gonna blend that right into 8 VM with a little bit of 8 NUA, again, giving us a really cool canvas, and I can't wait for you to see the final result. So I went ahead and mixed up my color root formula first, and then sectioned my client's hair. So I just wanna show you and walk you through exactly why I sectioned her and what we're gonna be doing first. So again, we're just kind of going right down the middle where she naturally parts her hair. I've isolated out what would be her face frame, just so that's gonna be the very last section that we apply, because I don't want this to get too dark, and I don't want to oversaturate that front part. I want to maintain the brightness that we've achieved around the face, even with all of the dimension that we've added in. I've then taken her from the apex down behind the ear, so again, really similar to the same sectioning we started with. And then in the back, I did a V section and split her down the middle, creating 3 separate sections. Now, the reason why I decided to do this is gonna give me so much more control when I go through and apply my color melt. I'm not gonna be fumbling with my brush and my clips and maybe getting the darker color onto the lighter pieces. This is gonna give me a clean working space to work with. So I'm gonna start right in the back here. And since we're right at this hairline here, I just wanna barely tap this in. I don't wanna go too deep along the hairline, but I'm also okay with this getting kind of deep here, which is why I'm applying it. And if you wanna maintain that brightness even for the face frame on the underside, this can be another area where you apply last. Now you can see I got my clip there. That's basically gonna be my placeholder. So every time I take a section down, I'm gonna clip this up, and this is why it makes a really clean working space when doing a root melt on your client. Because sometimes it just gets a little kind of messy, and that's where you get spottiness and things like that towards the mid zone. So overall, this is a pretty safe sectioning to do with any type of color melt. So I'm really just focused on getting my shadow root formula right where the highlights begin. And you can see it's kind of right in this zone right here. So I'm just gonna drag it right to that line, because after I get this on in the back, I'm then gonna comb it through. Now I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Now that I have her color melt formula on these back 2 sections, I'm gonna go ahead and start combing this down. And I'm gonna, again, work from the bottom up. And I'm gonna apply my end formula. So So I just wanna make sure that that color is dragged down enough and that we got that blend right in through here. And then I'm gonna apply my secondary shade right on top. So this is the VM with 8 NUA. So if at any time you just feel like you need a little bit more, like I feel like I need a little bit more of that shadow right there, I'll go ahead and reapply, comb it in, drag it down. And then apply my secondary shade by just putting it right on top of where that blend line's supposed to be. So I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. I'm gonna continue to work on through the back, just dragging that shadow root formula right on down. And once I'm done with the back section, I'll move towards the front and I'll just kind of keep an eye on it. You can process this up to 25 minutes, but it's really up to you how much saturation you're really wanting out of your toner formula. So I don't know, I think we're gonna go for about 15-minute processing time. I definitely want enough saturation because I want the look to overall look really dimensional and I don't want it to look too bright of a blonde. So now that I'm on this top section, I'll just go ahead and split this in half. And I like to work vertically, and I just like to get my shadow root on first and kind of quickly. And then I'll drag it down, and then we're gonna change directions on how we apply the bottom formula. And this is just to kind of get the process started of that deposit. And I like to apply it vertically too because it just makes the line a little softer as it falls down. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and drag this down. And since we're working on the crown area, I am gonna drag this down just a little bit more so we can keep it nice and deep. And I'm gonna do my blend line just about like an inch or so away from where the highlight originated from. And here's the final result of our cool bronze. You can see that the highlights lifted so beautifully and gave us a wonderful canvas for this really cool shade of 8 VM with 8 NUA, and I just really love how this all blended together. I think the placement of this is really what makes this technique shine, because we got a lot of global coverage, but also those diagonals that we put in gave her these really gorgeous ribbons, but still with a ton of blend. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, share this video with a hairstylist friend who would like this formula and technique, and like always, make sure to check out our other hair tutorials right here on this channel, and I will see you in the next video.